Today on Two Car Pros, I show you exactly how to change the engine air filters for a 2011 Ferrari 458. This is basically as easy as Ferrari maintenance gets. It is insanely simple. You could do this in 20 minutes, no problem. You do not need to take it to somebody to do these air filters. You're totally capable of doing this on your own in any situation imaginable with very little tools. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump in. So as soon as you lift up the rear engine cover for this Ferrari, you can see where the air filters live. It is in this nice plastic housing. There's just some torque screws holding it on, and then you can pull it kind of this way and up and get our air filter elements out of there and swap those guys out. So we can take a T25 Torx and remove these screws. So it looks like there are 5 fasteners all along the top of the box, and then there are 1 on each side that need removing. There we go. So you might notice when you try to take the air filter box up, it kind of looks like it'll clear if you just kind of push the thing forward, and then it might clear this cowling. And it looks like somebody's already tried that and chipped the paint here and here. That was not me, which is obviously something we want to avoid. We don't want to nick any car, especially a Ferrari. And there's just not enough room if you push it forward to clear that, and I'm not going to chance it. So what I'm going to do is actually take off the intake tubes from the top of the housing. So I'm going to take an 8mm socket or wrench, and we're just going to loosen the nuts on the back side of these intake tubes. They're not on terribly tight. If it starts spinning, you can back this up. I think that's a 4mm Allen or maybe a 3mm Allen. Just don't drop the hardware, obviously. And we can remove that. And there's a washer on the nut side, so keep that in mind. So I like to just kind of put the two back together, so when I put it back together I know what it looks like. And there's also one on the underside. There's only 2 for each. It's a little difficult to film, but it's right at the end of my index finger. These are not on terribly tight, which is good because it's kind of an awkward position. I'll get the nut out of there first, let the washer kind of hang out, and then put your finger on the front of the fastener when you remove it, so that way when the fastener clears the body, you can remove the washer and it won't just drop down in the engine bay never to be seen again, because that's what you really want to avoid on this car. And there we go, I have everything. Awesome, so just do that for both intake tubes and we'll be ready to take the top of the housing off. So we can separate both intake tubes from the housing, like that, and like that. If the O-ring gets dislodged, don't forget to put it back. And then we can just take off the housing by pushing it as far forward as we can, and we can remove the entire top of the air filter box. And then we can just put our fingers on the side of the air filter element, the old one, and remove that guy out of there. So the next thing I'm going to do is grab some very gentle, no residue leaving behind cleanser, and I'm just going to clean the inside of the airbox out because it does get dirty. This one's actually in pretty good shape, but you know, it is a good idea to just give it a nice cleaning anyway. Yeah, see, there's all kinds of ickies in there. We don't want that. We do not want that. Around the mating surface is good too. You don't want any dust interfering with the top of the filter box fitment. Yeah, it looks a lot better. So here is our old filter material. It may not look too dirty on camera, but there's a little fine bit of dirt there. And besides, most of the dirt gets caught on the bottom. And again, it doesn't look like too much on camera, but in person, it is decently dirty. And this isn't like an 04 Corolla where you usually don't change it until all the fins are pretty dark. But on this car, since it's high performance and exotic, I'm gonna go ahead and swap that out. Besides what the customer wants, here is the Ferrari part number. I'll do my best to try to find some resource online where you can find one of these, but we got this from an actual Ferrari dealer. Take that out. Yeah, you can see that it's a little bit different of a color. This one's definitely dimmer than this one. So yeah, probably a fine amount of dirt on there. Take the rubber band off. Take it out of our packaging. And then you just want to compare the relative size, make sure it is the same air filter, which it definitely looks like it is, so we're good to go on this, and this can go back to the car. Then we can just orientate our filter correctly, putting the dark side down, making sure it fits square in there. See, it's not completely flush in its home just yet. You want to make sure that it is going to fit like this, and that the seal around the filter body itself is nice and sucked in on the plastic bits on the side, because sometimes those can get a little bit off and then the box won't seal and you'll have a problem. So we're just going to do that and let that sit just right there. Looks great. Next, if your O-rings fell off of your intake tubes, go ahead and replace those. It's not terribly uncommon. Cool. And then we can grab our actual intake box. And you can see on this box that there are 3 tangs that actually hold this down here on these grooves that kind of hang over like this. They kind of curl around and they hold on to the bottom of the top of the airbox. So you kind of want to aim it for that. So what we're going to do is just put the box in its place first, like that. Because then you can kind of slide under this cowling a little bit to get the intake tubes sort of back into their position, but not quite. And then you can kind of walk the whole box back to where it wants to be, simultaneously putting on these intake tubes just like that. And look at that. Everything's nice and lined up. So if you look down the middle, you can actually see right there one of the overhangs that holds onto it. There's another one just over there, and just over there. And you want to make sure all 3 of those are in place, and then make sure all the bolt holes are lined up like this one is. So what we're going to do is take our screws, our Torx-headed screws, and just get them started by hand. And I'm not tightening them down just yet. I want a little bit of play in the top of the box. And then there are the 2 down in the sides that we had earlier, and I can't really show those because it's kind of in a really tough spot, so just use your imagination. You'll find it. They're really easy. And then just go wrist height. I have my very small electric ratchet, and it doesn't torque down very hard at all. So I'm just going to start in the middle and work my way out. There we go, looks pretty good. And then just to double check the tightness, I like to go over it by hand and make sure that it feels good. Yeah, this one needed a little more, because you can always tighten more. You don't want to break it, it's just plastic. So maybe just wrist tight. Something like 7 foot-pounds maybe less, not very much. There we go. Nice. So now we can focus on getting our intake tubes bolted back up. So what we're going to do is take apart our assembly, put 1 washer on the Allen head bolt side, put it through, then take the other washer, put it on the nut side, and I'm just going to start these by hand. I'm actually not going to tighten them down just yet because I want, again, a little bit of play. I want a little bit of leeway here in case I need to move things around a little bit, but not so loose that it just falls off. So once again, push the Allen-headed bolt all the way up, and my hands are going to be in the way. I deeply apologize in advance. And we're going to put the washer on first, and when you're putting the nut on, back up the Allen-headed bolt with your other hand, and then put on the nut. That way you don't lose your washer, because it's just pretty much an empty abyss down there. You wouldn't want to drop anything. And I'll show you how to tighten the top one. Pretty easy. You just back it up with a 3mm Allen, and then we can just tighten that 8mm down. A lot of time you don't even need the Allen to back it up. because it kind of just sits in its home, and you don't really need to be that crazy tight with it. Even that seemed perfectly fine. And then we can just do the same for the bottom one. Just make sure that it's not, you know, spinning. Because remember, they weren't on crazy particular tight when we took it apart. Awesome. And just do that for both sides. So that is how to change the air filters on your 2011 458. It is very easy, straightforward, and simple. All the links are located down below in the description. If you found this video interesting or helpful at all, please consider giving a like or even subscribing. It really helps the channel out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.